Hey there guys, so I'm back with another movie review. Today I'm going to be reviewing The First Purge, which came out a few days ago. I actually saw it on its release date, so I'm a little bit late with this one. So let's get into it. Now, The Purge is a franchise that I felt from the offset it was marketed wrong. I remember when the original movie came out in 2013 and it was marketed as a horror. However, if you go and see that movie, it's not a horror at all. That there's nothing scary about it. That there's nothing horrific about it. It's just a straight up action thriller. That's all it was. And I thought that the first movie was really bad. It was a critical bombshell. Nobody seemed to like it. However, for whatever reason, it's gotten three sequels. Now let's talk about this. Now, the first Purge is a prequel. It's set before the original, so it's set several years before it. And basically, the whole premise of this movie is Staten Island has been basically shut down and cornered off, and it's being used as an experiment to carry out the first purge. And depending on whether or not the purge goes successfully, they'll decide whether or not to continue with it. Which, of course, we already know that they do continue because there's an entire franchise of this shit. This is the fourth the fourth movie now. So, how is this movie? I've got to say, surprisingly, this movie is considerably better than the previous movies, in my opinion. It's 1,000 times better than the original Purge. I mean, the original Purge from 2013 was absolute garbage as far as I'm concerned. The sequel was a little bit better, The Purge Anarchy, although it was kind of lackluster, a little bit boring, but it was a lot better than the first movie. This one I'd say is on par with the second movie. It's considerably better than the third movie, the Purge election year. That one was just straight up left wing propaganda. It was bullshit, to be honest. And yeah, this movie, I've got to say, it's a lot better paced than those movies. It's much more well paced. Like the original Purge movie was just so slow at times. They could have cut half of it out. A lot of it was people sneaking around in the dark and so many uneventful scenes and such poor dialogue, man, that really didn't need to be in the movie. And yeah, there isn't much of that in this movie, which I do like. This movie, the as I said, it's an experiment taking place on Staten Island alone, so it isn't like a nationwide purge, which makes it automatically feel a lot smaller than the previous Purge movies. There doesn't seem to be as much at stake here. But to be honest, I didn't really mind that. And there are a couple of twists along the way. For example, I mean, you already know if you've seen the other movies, you already know that obviously the government has their own agenda for this purge. They get involved and they kind of stir up conflict during the purges. They don't allow people to just go out and do what they want. There's obviously a lot more to it than that. But in this movie, the lead character in this movie, and I'm not quite sure who the actor is. I don't remember his name, but if I remember rightly, I think he's been in TV shows. I don't really know if he's been in movies before, but I've got to say that the lead actor, he plays this crime lord, this big time drug dealer in Staten Island who basically runs the shit in that area. He's basically the top dog. He, I've got to say, did a really good job. Even though he plays a bad guy, essentially, even though he's the main character, he's a bad guy. He's a drug dealer. He's an extortionist. He's a hardcore criminal. He's a guy who, basically messed up his community. He's part of the reason why Staten Island is in such a state. But I've got to say that they did a good job of making him seem like less of an asshole than he was. I mean, you do feel like rooting for him at times, but the problem is later on in the movie, I mean, they try to make him into some sort of like action hero, which I really don't buy. I mean, when you see how he is at the beginning of the movie and the things that he does and the business he's in, and then when you see him being able in these action sequences, being able to take on these trained elite mercenaries and taking on hundreds of them single-handedly, snapping their necks and slashing their throats and disarming them with CGI blood and choppy action sequences. It was just so ridiculous to look at. It was unbelievable. I mean, the action in the movie wasn't very good. Let's be real. I mean, there's a scene which takes place in a tower block where, basically, as they do in so many of these movies, so many of these low-budget action flicks, they cut out the lights so you can't see anything. Cutting out the lights, they had like sort of a flashy flash, like some kind of strobe light through the window, so you can't actually see what's going on. You just know that somebody's kicking ass. It was those kind of action sequences that this movie had, and it wasn't good to look at. It was rubbish. It was rushed, and it was just complete crap. And it's what you'd expect from a low budget movie. The movie, like I said, it's a low budget. It's a very, very low budget movie. It isn't a very good looking movie. The effects aren't very good. Like I said, I mean, the use of CGI blood, shaky cam, and all that shit. Um, there's a lot of weird theatrics. Like, there's something I've never understood about these Purge movies. Like, there's a couple of pensioners that have got like a trolley filled with teddy bears, and like, like the teddy bears have got explosive devices in them and shit. And I'm like, where did they come up with this stuff? These people have just heard about this Purge and have just agreed to take part this day. Where did they get all this equipment? It doesn't make any sense because they weren't actually members of the government, I don't believe. So there are a lot of inconsistencies. A very inconsistent movie, man. There's a scene where they kill off one of the lead roles, one of the characters, and you just see it like you see it on a CCTV camera where it's like it's not even the actor. I heard somebody else say that it's like they couldn't afford that actor for another scene, and I absolutely agree. That's probably what happened. Is they couldn't afford to bring that actor back, so they just thought get someone that looks like him, and we'll just pop him in a security camera footage. That is cheap, lazy, what you'd expect in a low budget movie, really. Um, there's no real intensity in this movie. There are a couple of sad scenes. Like there's a scene, for example, where there's a bunch of people in a church, and most of them get slaughtered, which I thought was really sad. But at the end of the day, in a movie like this, what do you expect? You expect that kind of thing to happen. I really don't know what else to say. It was a lackluster movie. It was acted well for the most part, which is more than I can say about the previous Purge movies. I thought this movie was acted for, like I said, the lead role, the guy who plays the drug lord of Staten Island. This guy, he was okay. Dimitri, that was the character's name. I don't know what the actor's name, but I know the character was Dimitri, and he seemed like a fairly decent actor to me. But I mean, the action sequences involving him are what I don't buy. Like there's a section where there's these drones flying around, and they shoot his whole gang, just shoot them all dead, and he survives somehow, and it's like it's like he just rolls under a car, then he comes out the car, and then the things just fly away. Like forget him, we don't need to kill him, we got the rest of them. And it's like stupid. um it's just a really, really it's just a cheap, lazy action flick. I enjoyed it for the most part. There was one character in particular which I thought was hilarious. There's like this sociopathic black guy who he's got like a face like a skull, and they call him Skeletor, and he just goes around stabbing people for no reason, and he's always got a big smile on his face. I thought he was pretty funny. Just a real sick sociopathic character, but a likable character if that even makes sense. But the movie wasn't great. I'd give it a below average score of maybe a 4 out of 10. Like I said, it's a watchable movie. It's a watchable, cheap, low budget action flick. That's what it is. I got no issue with the movie really. But it isn't that good. I wouldn't really want to watch it again. But it's better than the previous Purge movies, I tell you that. So let me know what you guys think about this one anyway, and thanks for watching.